Hi everyone. My name is Lasheen. I don't think I've met all of you guys, but I'm going to be your Zoom host today, which basically just means I'm going to stop and end the meeting and make sure it goes live, which we are currently. So feel free to start whenever you need to. I'll be here in the background in case anything techie goes wonky. But hello and welcome to your meeting.
Hey everyone.
So I think the only people we're waiting for, or I think that I'm aware of, is Ellen. And I think Sue Houchins is going to be joining us. And I think that's everybody.
Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to log off and get on my laptop with my hotspot because our internet's being really unpredictable. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. Can everybody hear me? And Jennifer, who are we waiting on again?
I think everybody's here that I'm aware of that's coming.
Okay. All right. I know we have some new faces. Does everyone know each other, or do we need to introduce ourselves? Intro? Okay. So I'll start. I'm Krista Gallio with Court Services. I'm the supervisor here, and I am currently the chair for Program Subcommittee.
Hi, I'm Mary Stebbins. I'm Deputy Director at Albemarle Social Services. I'm filling in for Alice Micklem today, who's Assistant Director.
Hi, I'm Erica Jenny John. I supervise the Family Support Program at DSS, at Albemarle DSS, and I am also our FAPT rep.
Hi.
Just kidding.
So I guess I'll go ahead. I'm Sue Houchins and I'm covering for Katie Ralston. I'm her supervisor.
I'm Misty Grays. I'm the Deputy Director at the Department of Human Services at the City of Charlottesville. And this is my first program meeting and I'm excited.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Ellen Craig. I am the Director of the Child and Adolescent Case Management at Region 10. And I sit on the Albemarle County as well as sometimes on the city FAPT. So.
And I am Jennifer Wells. I am one of 2 CSA coordinators for Albemarle County.
All right, I think that's everybody who's on. Did everyone get a chance to review the agenda and any questions about it? Good to approve it. I just had, the date was back for March 3rd. Other than that, I don't know if that's a big deal or not.
Oh, right.
All right. So if we're good with the agenda, what about the notes? Our notes from the last time we met was February the 3rd. We skipped March because we had a lot of people who couldn't make it. Did everyone get a chance to look at the notes? Any adjustments?
It looked fine to me.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify, I know in section 4 where we gave, I guess the agency updates, the partner agency updates, it says that youth will no longer come to intake, but I just want to make sure that people don't think that that's the case, that we're working on a pre-booking diversion program with the police before youth would come to intake, but a lot of cases will still come to intake because that's not going to be applicable to everyone. All right, updates. So Erica, we need to change my name to your name on here for County FAPT. Do you have any updates for us from County FAPT?
Well, this is my first program meeting too, so what kind of update is typical? It might help me know what I need to say.
Yeah, I think just any trends that you're seeing at FAPT is if there's anything that stands out. The only thing that I was gonna let folks know is that Dana Rexrode, who's our private provider rep, was just given her extension for 1 more year at CPMT last month. And my guess is the city person will be coming forward soon. They didn't at the March CPMT meeting, but I think Katie's going to be bringing her person forward as well, but I'm not 100% sure, but our person did agree to a 1 year extension. And so we're really excited to have Dana. It sounds like she's been a really good asset to FAPT.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Erica, I usually there's not a lot of updates and I usually end up deferring most of the time to Jennifer for things I
Okay.
forget.
Thank you.
What about for City FAPT? I know it was supposed to be Julia, but I know she has moved on to another opportunity.
Well, I thought because I was prepared to be asked because I read the minutes, I was like, oh, Julia does this part.
Is that you, Misty?
Well, I don't attend FAPT, so maybe Ellen is better equipped at giving an update, but I did ask Jim Gross because he is now, I guess, chairing the city FAPT.
Okay.
He provided me with a little update, just that the meetings have been really productive and going really well. So there's about 1 family per week that has attended and engaged with the meetings. And that most, or as far as trends go, there's some additional requests for financial assistance, which isn't surprising given the COVID impact and sort of the current climate. So that's what he shared from the last month. And Ellen, feel free to add.
So Amy Hummel is usually the one who attends the Charlottesville FAPT, and I usually primarily do Albemarle, but we cover for each other occasionally. What I have heard from Amy is that I know Julia had been co-chairing, and that I think Mark Moore is going to be the new co-chair, is what I'm understanding. So
good luck. Kidding. Okay, thank you both for those updates. Jennifer, any CSA coordinator updates for you and Katie, or Sue for Katie?
The only thing that I was going to let folks know is I just found out last week that the Families First that's moving forward, the funding, apparently they have decided that the requirements for that funding, the contracts that they're going to use, they're going to make part of the CSA contracts, which is new to me. And so I wasn't aware of that. So the contracts that were supposed to go to CPMT this month are not going to be able to go because they actually haven't even gotten approval for the Families First contracts that they want us to incorporate in ours. So it's definitely going to be delayed. And I guess the only thing is you may want to let your CSA case managers know that if providers are asking, like we haven't gotten the contract for the city or the county, to just let them know that there's definitely going to be a delay this year as a result of that. So once we actually see what the requirements need to be, we'll add that to the CSA contracts, but that still has to go through the county attorney, and then it has to go to CPMT for approval. So it just takes time to get all those pieces done.
And it also has to go to the city attorney too,
Right.
after the county attorney.
So
Is
it just
there
takes
like, is there like a deadline to have those contracts done? I mean,
so the contracts expire June 30th. So July 1 is when the new ones are supposed to be in place. Typically, we get them approved in April.
gotcha.
Ready to roll out in May or June, and then they start coming in because most of them want them in place July 1.
Right.
So I'm just not, it may happen. I can't say for sure that it won't, but I'm a little concerned that some of them are already looking for, contracts now.
Right.
We definitely are not going to have them for April for sure. And I'm not positive about May.
I believe from the VDSS side, they're really pushing to do that quickly so that everything is set to launch July 1. So I would not be surprised if it makes it for May, would be my guess. But my last conversation with some of the folks I know in the Family First world, those are some of the steps that they're working on right now. So hopefully it comes through timely.
So that's it for the CSA coordinator update.
Okay, thank you. What about our partner agency? Any partner agency updates from anyone?
I think for us, we're at community attention, and just the community-based side is in the middle of sort of building what our summer programs are going to look like, and trying to meet the needs of our kids and families and our partner agencies and our staff. So just kind of coming up with a plan, and really looking forward to the summer and what we can create. So hopefully some information will go out, in the late spring. Obviously things are on a little bit of a delay while we figure out what it's going to look like, but hope to be letting you guys know about what we're offering soon.
All right, thanks, Misty.
I can provide an update that we're having a bit of a transition for Family Treatment Court. Jack Belcher, the current Family Treatment Court coordinator, has resigned, and his last day will be April 30th. So we're in the process of recruiting for a new FTC coordinator. But we also have a new intensive or high fidelity wraparound facilitator coming on board. So that will be Megan Conley will be joining Region 10 for that position. And I think that's it that I have for updates.
Okay. Thanks, Ellen. Anyone else? Any updates? We don't really have any updates from CSU. Yeah, other than I think we are going to maybe next week reevaluate how many people we have in the office and how many face-to-face contacts we're doing with kids and families. Hopefully going back to some more face-to-face contacts and getting some more people back into the office. It's just really hard, I'm sure you guys know, to supervise and work with kids and families outside of the office. And I think we're all just tired of not being able to do what we need to do. And I guess that kind of leads into service provision during COVID. Any adjustments or updates about that service provision right now? And Misty gave us kind of an update too about their summer programs.
I mean, currently all of our programming is still available, but it's probably heavier on the virtual side of things. So Teens Give is fully virtual, KEP is fully virtual, mentoring is hybrid, as are some of our other juvenile justice focused programming is hybrid. So, you know, I think folks, you know, like you were saying, Krista, are trying to do the best they can and also really eager to get back to doing things but want to do it smart and safely. So it's like those competing things have been challenging, but I am, you know, we still have openings, we still have spots, we still have things in programming to offer. It's just looks different still.
Okay.
I can provide an update from Region 10 that our outpatient services in the Child and Family Center are going to be moving more towards getting the higher needs kids who are not doing as well with the virtual format, coming back first for some face-to-face time, using appropriate social distancing and safety precautions, designating some certain spaces around the offices for that. We're slowly moving towards developing plans for coming back into more in-person contact. But it's going slowly and you know, moving program by program right now.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Any updates?
We've just been holding steady, I think, here at Albemarle. Building's still closed. Plan to revisit that. The potential to open mid-May, but we shall see if that, it has to go, see if that will remain a recommendation before the board, and then if the board approves it. So we're not sure yet if that will happen, but that's our next potential date for opening the building back up. And child welfare, there is more face-to-face, has been progressively more face-to-face throughout, what, 4 months probably, Erica, since January, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
So seeing kids more, doing more face-to-face. We still have supervised visits going on. I don't know, you want to add anything, Erica?
Yeah, I would just say that our mandated programs have continued when they have to have the face-to-face contact to assess child safety and such, that they're doing that. I would say for the 2 non-mandated programs, the 2 school-based programs that we have, the kids have returned to the buildings, or more kids have returned to the school buildings, which has allowed for us to have some more of that face-to-face contact. And I think that in general, although our recommendation and guidance is still do as much remote work and virtual contact as possible, I think that even some of the staff have felt a little bit more comfortable being fully vaccinated, et cetera, and having more of those face-to-face conversations. And I think with the weather turning, it makes it easier again to do those outside and not shivering and freezing and in the rain. So I think that we'll continue to see more face-to-face safe contact.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you all. Moving on to UR guidance. I have in my notes that Ellen, you are going to hopefully give us an update. And I also have that we need to, you sent out the UR review form that you guys currently use. And we wanted to take a look at that and see if that would meet our needs or how we needed to tweak it a little. So I'll kind of turn it over to you, Ellen.
Okay. Yeah, so I think Jennifer, you had sent out the current form that we've been utilizing, and that had been primarily used as for utilization review for youth that were in residential treatment programs. So I think it would need a little bit of tweaking for particularly looking at mentoring. I've been able to follow up as well with Nita Davis and just looking at our capacity to be able to do utilization review. Looks like we could potentially do about 5 different mentoring cases a month at this point. And if we could do that over a 3 to 6 month period, then I think we would be able to reach. I think we had talked about maybe getting about a 40% of the current cases. So if we could stretch that to the 6 month point, that would allow us to hit that capacity. I don't know if it'd be helpful to pull up or to look at the utilization review current report and go ahead and make some edits together. I don't know what your preference is for doing that.
So I would also just say, because I know a lot of you are filling in for other people, I don't know if it makes sense to push this off till next month.
We could do that, yeah.
Something we could do if it made more sense. I don't even know how many of you are actually familiar with what we're trying to do.
That's a good point.
So I would also be happy to go ahead and do some suggestion edits, and we could put maybe both of those forward next month, and that might help move things along.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
In the meantime, can someone give some of the newer folks an overview of the purpose of utilization review and the goal of 40%, like where that comes from?
Yeah, so the 40% comes from, we took a snapshot of how many mentoring cases we had in the city and the county at one time. And so that's where that figure came from. I think that's actually been a while ago, so I'm not even sure if it still holds true. It was kind of the general number we were going with. And so what CPMT was wanting to look at is really kind of drilling down to mentor. Well, actually, I'm sorry, that came from program. Program selected mentoring as the service to do UR on, just as a way of measuring how effective is it. Because what we anecdotally think is that it's being used for lots of purposes and not just exclusively for mentoring. And so there was sort of an interest in knowing more about what is it we're really trying to do with it. And are we really getting what we think we're getting when we're purchasing the service? And so we thought that UR might be a way to try to capture some of that information. And so we were just going to try a sample of cases to see what kind of information we got. But we're really at that very beginning starting point of what is it we're trying to capture. And so we started with a form that Region 10 already has, but like Ellen said, that's really more for residential. And so we need to make it fit for what we're trying to capture around mentoring.
Was it used for residential before for the same purpose from programs, CPMT's desire to review? Are we getting what we think we're getting? What kinds of things comprise residential services? So that was identified as the service the last time there was a utilization.
Yeah, it had been used for a while as a sort of more of an ongoing, just to make sure that residential treatment programs were being effective, doing what they were expected in providing the treatments that we were contracting for.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it sounds familiar from CPMT as well. I just wanted to make sure that program got that assignment.
Yes. Okay, so
And
we
now I'm in
will,
program, so I'll happily participate.
so we will revisit all of that next month. Sounds like a good plan. As far as our focus areas, C and D are the things we need to work on today. I'm not sure if we have a preferential order for those two or not, but we do need to complete the service gaps survey, and then we need to look at the family engagement or the provider satisfaction survey and see where we can add in some input that we received from CPMT. Anybody have a preference on what to do first? Okay. Let's look at the survey. That seems like it could be easier or faster to get out of the way. And I don't know if we can pull it up on the screen. I might be able to. Oh, no, I'm not the host, so I can't do screen sharing.
Not sure who the host is. I don't know how that works.
Lasheen Parks is the host.
Okay.
Lasheen.
Lasheen, are you there?
I'm here. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Are you able to allow one of us to do screen sharing? Probably either myself or Jennifer or someone.
Yes. 1 second. Okay, you guys should see that pop up.
Yes. All right, let me find the survey.
So while she's pulling that up, I just wanted to let the group know that the survey went to CPMT. I think it was February actually, because program didn't meet in March. And so they looked it over. They did have some feedback. And so and looking at the minutes, basically what this says is they would like to see if we can put in a sentence asking if the provider is using strengths that measure the strength of the family. And it says, could this be added to question number 1 to keep the survey a 1-pager? Also ask if the person's voice ideas were included in the plan. It says, maybe I felt heard or my voice was represented, embracing the empowerment we want families to have. So looking at really making the strengths-based, and that's the feedback. That they felt like none of these questions really captured that. And that's where they're hoping to incorporate that language in somewhere within the survey. But again, they were trying to be mindful of keeping it a 1-pager, which is why they were saying maybe it could just be added to a question versus adding a whole nother one. But they kicked it back to program to look at.
Yes, and I told them we would hopefully have another updated version for them to review this month. But yeah, my notes reflect the exact same thing that Jennifer just said. They just kind of wanted there to be a strengths-based theme and something that families were empowered to have a voice. And let me know if you need me to scroll. Is everyone able to see my screen? So we have 5 questions. And then one where they can add any other comments that's not on the screen at the moment. And they suggested it could potentially be worded into the first question. So if anyone has ideas as to wording, or if you see a place where it would fit a little better.
How will this survey be distributed? Is this going to be in a Word document just like this?
The plan is to try to make it a Survey Monkey so that case managers we have to figure out the process of how they're going to get to the families, but they would be sent a link where they could just click on a Survey Monkey and then answer it.
So keeping it to 1 page is maybe less important if it's going to be a clickable survey on Survey Monkey ultimately.
Right.
Probably. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense
Okay.
too.
So the other thing is, like, if it is going to be distributed in Word and we're worried about the length of it, maybe just playing around with fonts and margins could also help, like, make a different, like squeeze another question in there for clarity. Because one of the things that I was thinking about as far as adding, did I feel like the strengths of my family were recognized, and that, my feedback was solicited in the treatment plan, or however that's phrased. But if we add it like a comma, then people won't know if, like, well, maybe I agree that they were helpful to my family, but I strongly disagree that they allowed me to give feedback, or something like that. Like, if you add more commas, then it may be hard to pick one versus the other. So I guess I'm suggesting adding another question, as opposed to adding to one of the existing ones, given that having it be one page may not be as important if it's going to be virtual.
Did not mean to click that. Yeah, I think that's something to think about. We could, if we add just a question number 6, I keep forgetting it's going to be like a Survey Monkey, and it's not going to be the one pager that we hand out at FAPT, to make it short. So one question might not really be that much more difficult.
And really with Survey Monkey, you could probably get away with 8 questions if you wanted to split that the new suggestion into 2. I think you can get away with 8 questions on Survey Monkey without it feeling tedious and really long. I think once you hit 10, those couple more screens feel long, but 6, 7, 8 questions is probably, I mean, I did one this morning, for example, and it was nothing. Like 8 questions is a good number.
And at the risk of sounding like the new person that has all the things to say about this questionnaire that you guys already worked hard on, I was wondering if number 5 could be moved up to earlier in the survey, just acknowledging how important that question is, and prioritizing that in the survey, and maybe ending with some of the things that are talking about discharge sort of timeline makes it that way. I don't know if others agree with that or not, just offering that up for discussion.
I think that's a really good suggestion.
Yeah.
Moving it up the queue.
Where would you, let's see, trying to find a good place. I can attempt to do this as we talk, but I have no guarantees about my technical abilities.
I think it should be number 2.
Okay.
Please feel free to disagree with me. I'm sorry.
Yes, everybody, please add your input.
I agree. Number 2, I think that's a good spot for it.
All right. Yeah. This is not going to work the way I want it to. Oh, look at that. It is. Except I didn't. Oh my goodness. Okay, you know what? This might not be the best idea of me trying to do this.
It's always harder when you have an audience.
I know.
100%.
I don't want to be the chair anymore.
Krista, if you want, I can just make the notes and then I'll fix it later and send it out.
Thanks, Jennifer. That
Yeah.
would probably be the best use of our time.
Yes, and because I'm thinking if you're adding an extra question, you need to figure out which number question that should be.
Yes, that is a good point. So let's just go back to our original survey. Possibly. Yeah, that's not gonna work. But anyway, there we go. Not really. All right, let's continue on. Okay, so where do we want, maybe after that one, we move number 5 up to number 2. Would we put the one that we need to add as number 3? That's what I would think.
So I think that makes sense there.
Okay, okay.
Move the providers delivered services as agreed, like further down the bottom, and leaving more about like the planning and the involvement of family. Those kind of questions up to the top.
Right, right. All right, so suggestions on the wording of getting at the strengths. CPMT had suggested, as Jennifer said, something such as my voice or my ideas were involved, or and I felt heard. I guess we can kind of start with something like that and tune it up a little bit. I'm thinking. Like the service provider listened to my ideas and incorporated them into the plan, something like that. Where's all of our wordsmiths?
I like that.
I mean, I think that was good, Krista. And I would put, I think where to put that to me makes sense to put it closer to the top as well. Maybe making that a number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3 or number 4.
Also, in addition to ideas, I think we also want to make sure that their ideas, perspective, and what was the other word? But just like their ideas and their experience, or their ideas and their expertise, my ideas and my experience, or something like that, or my perspective.
Oh, I had a word. Yeah, so the service provider listened to my ideas, and it was along the line of perspectives.
Requests, thoughts.
Thoughts, requests, not really input, but
Needs.
Needs. The service provider listened to my ideas and my needs and incorporated those into the services or into the plans, or
The number 3 that's currently number 3 right now talks about the family's needs. And I think
it does.
what
you're right.
came out of CPMT was using more strengths-based language. So flipping things to valuing a parent's expertise, experience, or perspective, their ideas, their input. I like the word input, my ideas and input, because it's sort of, input is neutral,
Right.
as opposed to being, it's like more neutral language, or thinking of more strengths, what we want parents to feel like they are sharing with their service providers or solicited by service providers should have a strengths-based.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the service provider listened to my input and incorporated into the plan.
It's kind of like saying I contributed. Like I'm trying to figure out how to get at that differently, but I contributed to the development of this plan for my family. I'm getting hung up on the contribution where I keep looking it up in the thesaurus and I'm not finding.
I helped develop the goals for the plan or for the services.
How about the service provider incorporated my ideas or input into the service plan?
Because this is evaluating the service provider, not whether or not the parent did or not, but it's more about evaluating the provider's ability to, correct?
Right. Yes. Yes. So I like that.
I got you.
Jennifer, are you getting all of this?
I think so. So do you guys want it to say ideas and input, or do you just want one word?
Say what you said again, Sue.
The service provider incorporated my ideas into the service plan, or you could say ideas or input. I think it can be both or just one. They're pretty much the same.
I appreciate, Misty, what you were saying about input being neutral and kind of leaves space for all sorts of, whether it's ideas or thoughts or, it sort of encapsulates all of that.
That's true. So we might want to just say input.
Okay. So I've got the service provider incorporated my input into the plan. All right, and just to run through this really quickly, I have number 1 is number 1. I have the former number 5 is number 2. I have the question is number 3. And then I have number 4. Wait, sorry, now I'm confusing myself. I have the former number 3 is number 4, and the former number 2 is number 5, and the former number 4 is number 6. That's really confusing.
But it sounded right.
I believe in you.
Okay. I can make these changes. If you all want to see them before it goes to CPMT, I can do that. Just if you want to take a glance at it and make sure it's correct. Or if that sounds right, I can just move it forward.
I mean, it sounded right. It sounded good to me.
It sounded right to me.
Yeah.
I did just, I think it was Nita who had mentioned the language about strengths, like adding something about strengths being acknowledged. So the current question 5 that's on the screen talks about, treating families with respect by acknowledging and valuing our race and ethnicity. I wondered whether we add the word strengths with the input question we just created. Incorporated, magic word, Sue. What was it again? The service provider incorporated
My input
and my family's strengths into the plan.
Yes.
I like that.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
That way it captures both strengths-based and input.
All right. Hopefully that will be the final draft of the survey. I feel like we've been working on it for the past year, which we probably have.
Yes, it's been a while.
I will say that I appreciate the workshopping of it, because this is something that we've considered to do as a department for our stakeholders and our clients and families for a while now. But it's a significant investment to really get the questions right and what you want. And because words do matter and it reflects your values. And so I really appreciate the headway that you guys have made on this. So thanks.
Thanks, Misty. And then you come in your first time and you help us wrap it all up. Very good. No, thank you for all of that. All right, service gaps survey. hopefully we've collected information from our agencies to compile together. Jennifer, how do we want to do this?
Yeah, so this is where it gets a little tricky because before when we were in person, we'd literally just like post everything up on the walls so everybody can see everybody else's responses. We can't really do that this time.
Right.
You can use the whiteboard and write on it.
Oh, wow.
Zoom. There's a whiteboard in Zoom that you can put up and write on or type on.
Didn't know. Okay, does anybody know how to do that?
I gotta find it, but you can do it.
It's a function the host can
you were
do.
in the meeting with me when we were trying to figure this out last time.
No, but I think you were the one who found it.
I have to be, I think that.
It's the host who does it, and it's a shared screen. So if you can share screen, then it's, oh,
Yeah, I don't think, let's see if I can share my screen. Oh, maybe I can share my screen. Hold on. Well, let me, hold on.
Mm.
Let me see.
That's pretty cool if we can.
doesn't seem like it's an,
So
But I don't-
whiteboard doesn't come up for me.
it's not set as an option.
We might have to ask for help from our friend Lasheen Parks.
It is.
Yeah, I don't,
Do we have the ability to do a whiteboard?
I don't believe we do.
we can also just, someone can share their screen and type.
That's true. Let's see.
Does that work? I don't know if that works now that I said that.
Maybe.
Try it, but I don't know if you can see what's actually,
Yes, that works.
it does work because you were doing that, Krista. Yeah.
Yes.
Do that.
Yes. All right.
Sorry, thinking.
Let me get a new.
So the good news is I think there's fewer folks to have to share their results because I know I haven't gotten anything from the school folks and they're not here. So I'm not actually sure who all has results to share with us, but if you could just let us know as we go through them.
Krista, you're going to have to stop share and then reshare the blank page.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, Word doesn't switch.
Oh, well, it should. By now, it should there to switch. Let's see. Here it is. All right. Is it blank?
Yes.
Okay. So I know I have CSU's and Jenny Jones sent Charlottesville DSS as well.
I have Albemarle's.
Yeah, okay. So we can go by agency and I can just type, or we can go by number. Sorry, this is my first time doing this.
I think let's just go by agency and put the top 3 to 5 that each agency came up with and see what's up there. And then we can sort of narrow down from there.
Okay.
Does that work?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Who wants to start? Mary, hold on.
Sure. So it wasn't on the list, but we put our number 1 as affordable housing.
Okay.
Transportation, crisis intervention / stabilization, acute psychiatric hospitalization. Sorry, I'm talking about.
Okay.
And short-term diagnostic. Which actually we had those combined. We just kind of combined those. And we added substance. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
We didn't.
And you added.
We added substance abuse treatment for adolescents.
Okay. And do you want to go through the rest of that, or do we want to get everybody else's top ones first?
I think we probably we need to. Do we need to narrow this down to just 5 from the group?
I think so.
So what happens is
How does this work?
back in the day, we would submit this jointly
Right.
longer due. We actually have to send these in separately for each locality. What happens is we have shared agencies. So like Region 10, if they have results to share, we need to make sure that everything kind of matches up. So if the city's results are different than the county's, that's okay because they may be different. But for those partner agencies, we have to have consensus for like the county and those partner agencies, and then for the city and the partner agencies.
Gotcha. So should we do like the county first then?
We can.
City? I'm not sure.
All right. Yeah, let's do the county. But that also includes, that would include CSU and Region 10.
Yes.
And Misty, would that include you as well? Or just the city because you're a city?
I think I'm just city.
Okay, okay. All right then. Ellen, what about Region 10?
I apologize. Region 10 is not ready to, I don't have the information.
That's okay. We'll go with CSU then. Ours, I mean, we can get on board with all of those that county DSS said. We definitely had the crisis intervention and stabilization. We had said therapeutic day treatment and medication management. We also said, let's see. We had Medicaid counselors. I'm not sure, I'm looking to see where that one would go.
We talked about that as well, actually.
Okay.
Now that you say that,
I think that was closer to the end, Mary.
yeah, I was just looking to figure out when we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had that. You're right. It was that we had that under question 8 in terms of barriers.
Oh, okay.
We were
Okay.
talking
So
about
that
barriers,
may
but yes, it's a problem.
barrier. And we had also said sex offender services, like specific treatment for sex offenders and violent offenders, and Black mentors for youth of color, which would probably be more of a barrier as well, versus a service, because we have mentoring, but one of the barriers is for the population.
And then we talk about like transportation, like we had transportation and affordable housing as services, but well, I still think affordable housing is a problem, but transportation could be
Oh, yeah.
a barrier or a service. So yeah.
We had that. Yeah, we had that also.
Mhm.
And that basically, oh, I didn't put sex offenders. And they were only supposed to have 5, but
Yeah. We also like, so the ones that like TDT and med management and sex offender treatment, we checked as well. Like, I mean, they were also on our list. We just didn't have them as our top priorities, but
okay.
talked about all of those.
Okay. So any, I guess we're the only county
Yeah.
specific, and I'm city too, so.
So for the county, I mean, we can obviously at least start with the ones where you all are in agreement, like crisis intervention
Yes.
would definitely be one.
Yeah.
And then transportation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so then we get to this place where for the third, you all are just going to have to come to some sort of agreement of which one you all feel like would be.
Well, it's 3 to 5, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. So we could definitely include more. We can't get them all.
Right.
I mean, I can actually, in seeing, I think a lot of the sex offender stuff, it would just be probably partial to CSU. but I think I can go with the 5 that ACDSS had. I mean, they're all areas that we need addressed if we want to do that. Crisis intervention and stabilization and transportation, and then just, you know, the affordable housing. I don't know if we want to rank them or anything, or if we're supposed to.
I think we just list them. I don't really think they're ranked necessarily looking at this. I mean, they ask for your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, but I don't know that it's a ranking more as it's just identify.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There's our county top 5.
Okay.
Delete these.
And I'm in the same boat as Ellen. I don't have human services responses collected.
Well, oh, okay. I have city DSS. I can put that on there.
And this is, when does this need to be turned in to?
So it's actually,
Okay.
it has to go to CPMT for their approval.
Okay.
It's May 7th. And so the problem is we won't meet again. Well, CPMT won't meet again to be able to get it done in time.
I was just saying, is it possible that I could collect the human services results and, or at least come up with some sort of consensus to get human services to consent to it? Or
Problem
there-
is then this group doesn't meet again to determine which 5 to put forward, right? Because it's 5 for the city as a whole. So it'd be DSS, Human Services, Region 10, CSU. Putting all those together. So I'm not sure how we could do that. I don't know. I'll leave it to those have been around longer.
I mean, so I will say, like, the one thing about the service gap survey is it's something that we do every year. So it's one of these things that we'll visit again. I mean, if you feel like you have really strong feelings about something in particular that's not been included, you could certainly make that argument today. It's just that we're kind of under a little bit of a time crunch to get it done and submitted. And Sue,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any, I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts about it, since it's the city, so I don't want to kind of stick my neck out there, since I'm really just collecting it for the county, because that's who I need to submit it for.
Yeah, I just know that, yeah, I mean, Katie's gonna want to get it to CPMT and in May too. So there is a time crunch. I mean, honestly, I hate to say this, but every year we do this and it feels like it doesn't make that much. I mean, I don't want to say it's not important to think about this, but it's not like you can't make the decisions that you feel, Misty, and if you agree with what, you know, our department didn't put a huge amount of hours into thinking about this.
Yeah.
We did it in one supervisor meeting.
Yeah, it was on our agenda 2 leadership team meetings ago, and we didn't get to it. And then we just forgot to put it on the last one before this meeting. So it was something that fell off the agenda, did get picked back up on the next one. So it's nothing that I don't feel comfortable talking about here in this space. I feel totally fine doing that if that's okay. I just didn't know if we were required to have some sort of response to bring to the table, if that makes sense. But I'm comfortable having a discussion.
I feel you could make some suggestions to go along with what we already have, and we could just do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ellen, I think you could probably do the same with Region 10. I mean, you're very familiar with services and what's there and what's not.
Yeah.
I will say that, and maybe I'm not understanding the needs assessment but the trauma-focused informed services piece that CDSS identified is the needs to identify that we need more of those kinds of services, or that they don't exist, or we need more of them.
So I can
I
read
think it's
Yeah.
maybe more.
the actual question. Yeah, they're interested in learning more about the most critical service gaps that are impacting your community's ability to serve children in their home, school, and or community. And from the following list, which we have a list of several services,
I've
please
seen all that.
identify 3 to 5 which are most important to further develop in your community, and consider services that do not exist in your community, as well as those that exist but do not adequately meet your locality's needs due to constraints such as insufficient capacity, poor quality, or prohibitive costs.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
So do you, Misty, do you have any updates or any additional suggestions other than what City DSS has mentioned?
I agree with the crisis intervention, stabilization. I was also thinking about the substance abuse treatment for adolescents. That seems to be significant for us. Transportation is something that is a service that we provide, but we always are having challenges meeting the needs. So, you know, that's just a personal experience about what our kids need, not only to attend our services, but others as well. Although we're in the city and folks have access to bus transportation, that just seems to be a theme that continues to come up. We also have a safety, you know, and community violence that's happening. And so I think finding transportation that's reliable and safe is really important for folks in the city. Let me look at the list again. You know, I would agree with the trauma-focused and informed services. I was at first sort of like considering that in the way of what we have those, but it is certainly a value in a service provider that I think folks are looking for. Do they have the background and training in order to provide those services? And then I would default to CDSS, to the TDT, med management piece. So like, you know, those are, I don't have strong feelings for or against those things.
Okay. Ellen, what about, or sorry.
That's okay. I would agree with a lot of what's already up here.
Okay.
The only thing, and I was looking at the gap survey. One of the things that's not listed, but that I think we keep on sort of running into is a sort of respite placement services. I don't know if that is something that is okay to add.
We had that one on ours as well.
We had that one checked as well. It didn't
Okay.
have it in our top 5, but we definitely had respite on our list as a problem, a need.
And I think we're pretty focused on trauma focused and raising that awareness and see it as a need. Affordable housing is always comes around as a need. Definitely, I think TDT is definitely something, and as a, obviously Region 10 was a former provider, and due to changes within the system that had ended. So, but that doesn't mean there's not still a need for the kids in the schools. So I think there's some argument there. And then I would defer to the rest. I mean, I think there are some good arguments there for childcare and for substance use treatment. I'm not in disagreement with any of those things.
Okay.
It's also hard to look at this need through the lens of COVID.
Yeah.
Because, there were, I think when the pandemic first hit and we were sort of staffing like childcare needs, there were openings in childcare places, but they were underutilized because of the pandemic and, safety and things like that. So it's hard to are we evaluating what the needs are in this world post-pandemic, or is it these needs are exacerbated because of the pandemic? Those kind of things. So
yeah. So Ellen, as far as the county top 5, because you guys represent the county as well, are you good with those? Or
yes, I would be good with those. I think transportation for county purposes is gets in there a little bit more.
Okay. And so for everyone for the city, we have the trauma focused and informed services. So that looks like a good one.
And I was also having a thought about transportation, is because so many things are accessible virtually now, does that sort of alleviate some of the access with transportation? Anyway, just putting it out there.
I would argue no. There's still things that need to be accessed in person.
Yeah, I would argue the same. We still have significant transportation needs.
Okay.
And some of it goes to the core of families that are trying to support themselves, limited and needing to be living in county areas, but not necessarily being able to easily access public transportation.
Yeah. I was thinking it still continues to be significant for the county. I was just thinking more about my responses for the city human services. I was more reflecting on that city perspective versus the county. That's a whole different accessibility issue. So
yeah,
seems right.
So another common theme is the TDT. And I know, Misty, you said you didn't have strong feelings about TDT or med management. Is TDT something we want to put out there as one of the top 5 for city? Or med management?
I think TDT and med management are, well, TDT's on every one of our list.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the crisis stabilization. It's on 2 of them. Well,
yeah. Let's see. So we could probably go with either med management or the substance abuse for adolescents, or both. I don't know. What do you guys think for number 4 and 5? I mean, as far as CSU, I know we struggle with substance abuse for adolescents. If we were to put that in there,
I mean, we struggle with
For that.
too.
But that's also on my list. So I guess I'm waiting to see if Ellen or Sue have other thoughts.
Well, we certainly struggle with fund and resources for substance abuse services for adolescents. So I'm fine with that too. And then med management seems to be common, 2 of 3, and so substance abuse. So I think those could be our the 4th and 5th.
I'm fine with that.
Oh my goodness, I can type. I was doing so well.
Yes, you were.
All right. Trauma-focused informed services, therapeutic day treatment, crisis intervention, stabilization, substance abuse, med management. Everyone feels strong or feel okay about those?
Yep.
All right, so we have our top 5 for each. Now we need to go through and identify whether or not there are specific populations for each of our gaps. So we can start with, well, we have crisis intervention and stabilization on both.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you want to start with the ones that we have for the city and the county, we could hope to do them together to save time.
Yes. All right. Let's look at it. So City DSS said for crisis intervention for potentially disrupting or disrupted adoptions. And I mean, we would, hold on. And they didn't identify any specific ages. I think we would say it.
Sorry, I apologize. Text I had to respond to. What are we doing? We're on crisis intervention, looking at ages. Is that what you said?
The specific populations and ages.
So in populations, we had checked autism, potentially disrupting, or you probably don't want to type these. Maybe there's an easier way to do this.
I know, I'm wondering,
So I'm thinking, Sue, if you're able to just, if you have it where you can just check those boxes, I can check it for the county as we're going through it. And then if people don't agree with something that's said, you can just speak up, but otherwise we'll just check those boxes.
that would be great.
Okay.
I was not wanting to type all of that.
Okay, so we had checked autism, potentially disrupting or disrupted foster care placements, potentially disrupting or disrupted adoptions, youth with multiple mental health diagnoses, youth involved with the juvenile justice system, and substance abuse.
And I think that covers everything we checked. Did you say multiple mental health diagnoses?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, of course we didn't have foster care or adoptions, but definitely agree with all of that.
I would concur with all of that as well.
Okay. And then if there's any specific age groups, of course, our ages would be all the way from middle school up until 21.
Yeah, we had 5 to 26 actually, since we serve youth to 26 now, but yeah.
Oh, that's right.
So I would say elementary school age on up.
Yeah, and I know CDSS just did the disrupting or disrupted adoptions. So it encompasses, I think we've got everything encompassed for that.
Okay. All right. What else do we have in common? Substance abuse treatment for adolescents.
We had youth involved. Well, we really just checked youth involved with the juvenile justice system and substance abuse. Those were the only two we had checked.
Yes, that would cover mine. And of course, our ages probably would be the 14 to 21.
We actually had 11 to 21.
Yeah, I could go with that too, because we do have some 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were maybe looking at the upper end of that, the 11 to 13, but we were definitely at.
I would also add youth with multiple mental health diagnoses to that.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, I would agree with
I
that.
agree with that one.
Absolutely.
All right. I think that's all we have in common. Transportation.
We did not have any specific population but we did write other folks living in the rural areas. It's just difficult.
That would definitely be one of ours. And I think 11 all the way through 21 would be transportation problems.
We had all ages.
Yeah.
We just have multiple different needs in transportation that we can't cover.
Mm-hmm.
From getting kids to school and if they live in their home base to long distance visits. We had to, getting them to services. There was just a lot. So anyway, it was all ages. Or not one in particular, I guess.
Affordable housing.
Feel free to jump in, Erica, if I'm missing something.
Doing great.
I'm just going on my notes.
Oh, I'm glad that you have, I don't have those in front of me, so sounds like what I recall.
Yeah, for affordable housing, we just, we didn't pick. I mean, I think it's a lot of different groups. It cuts across groups. It's, so we didn't specifically check any boxes on that because it's a larger problem than that goes across probably any group specific population.
Yeah, I think it could cover all of anybody, any population, any age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also said all age groups as well. There's not a.
And I know specifically for us, we have a hard time with housing for some of our parolees. DJJ will pay for 6 months of independent living, but after 6 months, if they're not 21 yet, and maybe they don't have a family member, we have a significant problem in finding some housing. And even some of our older probationers who may be 18, 19, there's often housing issues.
Right.
Acute psychiatric hospitalization and short-term diagnostic.
So for this one, we had checked potentially disrupting or disrupted foster care placements, potentially disrupting or disrupted adoptions, youth with multiple mental health diagnoses, youth involved with the juvenile justice system, and substance abuse.
And we would echo all of that and add the sex offending and sexually reactive behaviors as well.
Yeah.
And then we would go probably 11 to 21 as far as ages.
Us as well.
Yep, I would agree with all of that.
Okay. And then substance abuse treatment for adolescents. Wait, did we already go through that?
We did that one, I think. I haven't checked.
We
on-
did, because that was one of the common
Yeah, that
ones.
was a shared one.
All right, for the city, trauma-focused and informed services. What did Jenny put? So Jenny had put the sex offending and sexually reactive behaviors in youth with multiple mental health diagnoses. And no specific age group was listed. I would add, of course, youth involved in the juvenile justice system and substance abuse.
I would also add autism, intellectual disability.
Yes, yes, agree.
I agree with all of that.
And she didn't check an age group. It would cover us for 11 to 21. I know.
I would say, just given the ages of kids that are in CAF, that we would want to acknowledge all the age groups.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think trauma is a broad spectrum.
Yeah, yeah. All right, therapeutic day treatment. She didn't really choose anything. I know it's a problem for youth involved with the juvenile justice system, multiple mental health diagnoses.
Yes.
I would say the intellectual disability and developmental disability as well, and autism.
And autism, yeah.
I was going to throw substance abuse in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our typical age range, 11 to 21.
I would extend it down into kindergarten.
Okay.
Did we already do crisis intervention and
We
substance?
did.
Mm-hmm.
So we just need to do mid-management.
Is it going to throw, I know being a pain, but just wondering, after hearing the conversation about affordable housing and sort of reconsidering that position, I know CSU is feeling that way. Ellen felt that way. So I don't know if that's across. So I feel like I was feeling this thing, like I need to say something. I think affordable housing, or I could just be quiet, but I just felt like I needed to just say, I actually think that needs to be there.
I know in our discussion, our supervisory discussion, affordable housing did come up. It just, didn't make the top 5, but I know that is a major concern. We even discussed the fact that, CSA is paying for a lot more rent, utilities for families ever before. So yeah, I can agree. I mean,
and the way that we're operating our helpline right now with rental assistance and eviction, diverting evictions for whatever, lack of a better term, but just it's an issue, and we have a whole program dedicated to finding affordable housing, which is a struggle. So anyway, I just felt obligated to say something.
So
change mid-management to
affordable housing.
That's my opinion, but I'm just happy to see affordable housing included anywhere, whatever spot it takes.
I mean, when I think about med management versus affordable housing, while we have limited resources, we do have some resources in that area with UBA, as well as some other private providers that are filling some of those gaps, where I think that I've seen more need and coming through for affordable housing. Like you said, more rents being paid, more supports and bills being funded through FAPT, through CSA services. So
yeah, I would agree. I think we've had housing issues as well with our kids. So I'm good to change number 5 to affordable housing if everyone else, Sue and Ellen and Misty, are in agreement.
I'm fine with that. Like I
Okay.
said, I think that would have probably, if we'd had a number 6, that would have been our number 6.
Okay,
Misty, thank you for raising that because I,
yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, glad that's okay.
Yes, thank you. And so any other like specific populations to add? I know we said when we were discussing it for the county, it really just kind of covers everyone, all ages, all groups.
all ages, all groups.
Yeah, it doesn't really hit a specific
No.
population necessarily. And then our last piece is the 5-point scale, with 1 being not at all, 5 being a great deal, indicating the level of impact the following barriers have had on your community's ability to develop the services you've identified. Barriers related to COVID-19 can be described in the comments and or the other barrier response category. So from 1 to 5, the need for greater collaboration and consensus. County.
We said there was still a big need for that, so 4 or 5.
Okay. Yeah, we said a 4. Ellen, do you have a thought on that as far as collaboration and consensus as a barrier?
I don't have a sense on that, although I'm always in favor of needing more of it. So,
I know. It can always be 4.
and don't we need collaboration and consensus?
Okay. What about the city? DSS did not choose.
I don't remember, I don't think we discussed this in our meeting, so
Okay.
I'm looking at what Jenny submitted from it, but as a barrier, I feel like we do a lot of collaboration, but yeah, I guess we can always improve that. Maybe, I hate to be the one. What do you think, Misty? Because I don't want to make this.
I think a 4 sounds,
That sounds awesome. That's actually what I was going to suggest. So, and I'm not just saying that.
okay.
Yeah, I think we would say 4, and Ellen, you were with a 4, so, okay. Lack of funding.
I think we're a blessed community and we have a lot more funding than a lot of communities across the state.
Yeah, we said 1.
Yeah,
It's
okay. I agree.
not really a barrier.
I think
We didn't really check it. I didn't check a box, but what we did say was there is a lack of community-based funding. And there's a lack of resources to support basic needs. However, CSA is supportive. So there's a lack of resources for things
That CSA has to pay for ultimately.
that we then have to go to CSA for.
I was
If
gonna-
3,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Erica?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Misty just said that.
No.
I've worked with other CSA, other localities that don't approve things like that. So we're really blessed to have access to funding for material supports and rent. And I've noticed again, an increase in the frequency and amount of money that folks are having to ask for just to meet basic needs right now.
Yeah.
With our agency, and we're exhausting agency funding, community funding, and all of those things before we're coming to CSA. So that's,
Yes. Yeah.
it's a lot.
All right, lack of transportation. I had a 4 and a 5, so we're somewhere around 4 or 5.
At a 5.
Ellen, for the county, what do you think?
Yeah, I would put it at a 4 or a 5 for the county. I think for the city there seems like there's more options, but wait, that isn't part of the city stuff, right? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it is not. Actually. Oh yeah, but we talk about it for the city. Never mind. I'm getting myself confused. This survey always gets me. So yeah, 4 or 5. I don't really have a strong opinion. If DSS said there's a 5, we can go with 5 because we said that too. We said 4 and a 5 basically.
4.
I had 2 people. 4.
You can sort
Do
of split
4.
the difference. Yeah.
All right, let's do 4. What about city?
So I'm rereading the what context we're supposed to be answering this, and it says, please indicate the level of impact the following barriers have had on your community's ability to develop the services that you've identified. So how does transportation impact our ability to do affordable housing, substance abuse, crisis intervention, stabilization, therapeutic day treatment, trauma-informed services? My opinion, I don't know that that does
I think
impact.
it would probably impact substance abuse for adolescents,
Okay,
possibly affordable housing if they had to travel greater distances to access more affordable housing. So I'd say like maybe a 3.
I'm fine with that. Just trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
It's more about, we're not back to deciding that transportation is an issue. It's how it gets to the resources or develop those resources.
I think it can be cumbersome for families to be able to access services using public transportation. It often delays them greatly or, makes it more difficult.
So a 3 is fine.
Okay. 3. Provider availability, county. We were back and forth between a 3 and a 4.
Yeah, we were like around a 4, just because of the long wait lists.
Yeah, I think with a 4 on that one. Ellen, any strong feelings?
I forgot I was muted.
Oh, like, you're ready to tell you you're muted.
No strong feelings on that one.
All right. What about city?
I would agree. Being the person that supervises the person who approves providers, I think that we do struggle sometimes with finding enough providers. So I'd do a 4, even a 5. Providers don't want to always do our contract. They don't want to do the background check. So it is, for me, it is when I just feel like it is the whole provider availability, even though we have a lot of resources in our community, more than other communities, I feel like that it can be a provider, a barrier. Maybe a 4.
Okay. Misty?
I think Sue gave some pretty clear justification for that, that is different than my perspective. I mean, I think it's clear that provider availability for affordable housing, that's what it is, right? It's a shortage of housing providers. Substance abuse for adolescents, I'm not aware of very many, if any, like outside of a clinical setting, therapy, like a therapy. What other services are available for substance abuse, specifically for teens, other than the evaluation piece. So, yeah, I think it's pretty significant. I mean, I'd like to think that a lot of our providers that we utilize are trauma focused and informed, especially with the Trauma Informed Care Network. So it's not maybe as applicable there, but the others are. So 4 is fine.
Okay. Ellen?
Yeah, I would agree with all of that.
Okay. The need for information and data. I think around a 1 or 2 on that is what we said.
I can agree with that for the city.
Okay.
Sometimes we get too much information. And I've got provider, man.
We had it higher, just because, do we get the information that we need? Yeah, we get a lot of data, but is it what we really need to make decisions and move services forward? And then do we use the data that we have, really use it to guide decisions and make
That's a good
develop
point.
programs? And so we had it higher.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
I would sort of agree with Mary that it's there's no like a universal. We have stepping stones to track data, but we don't have like a universal tool that we're all using to figure out what they are. And we can anecdotally sort of sit and say, okay, anecdotally, I think substance abuse treatment for adolescents aligns, but it would be great to be able to capture like how many adolescents have been turned away, or how many families have had teenagers that, if we could put a number to it rather than just having it going on our gut, that would be great. So I think more could be done around inventory of kids and families and what the true needs are.
Might make it easier to fill out this survey every year.
That's a good point.
Wouldn't have to put so much thought into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't resist saying that.
So I would say it's significant. I would maybe say a 3 or a 4 for me.
That's
Yeah, I'm hearing at least a 3. But I think the way it's been rephrased, we could go with a 3 or a 4 for CSU.
same for me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, same for me.
3.5 it is.
There you go.
Yeah, pick 3 or 4. We can go with 4.
Go for
Let's go
4.
for it.
Go for 4. What about other barriers? Are there any that we have that were not listed here?
I think you mentioned, Krista, an important barrier is having providers of color, or
Yes.
a more robust clinicians of color, providers of color network. It's developing, but having more access to those providers.
Yeah, I would
Or representation across the board with providers, with therapists, with physicians, psychiatrists.
Yeah.
Spanish speaking is also
Yes,
Yeah,
like
that's-
different languages.
languages.
Yeah, so if we can figure out how to word that one, definitely a barrier. And I would say a 4 or a 5, maybe a 5.
Yep.
I think as we continue to have disproportionality, as far as the effectiveness of our work as a community, if we don't address like the representation and providers, we may not be able to move the needle as effectively or efficiently as we did. So I see a sense of urgency that needs to be reflected in that, and probably put that as a 5.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I would say that's both city and county, in CSU's opinion.
So how do you all want to label the barrier?
Is it sort of similar to provider availability and that sort of provider representation of providers of color in the network or service array?
Say that again, Missy.
I don't know. I just said like
Lack
four
of-
words that we've already said together.
Yeah.
Lack of provider representation for people of color and
Yes.
Hispanic and minority,
Yes.
or I hate using the word minorities, but
I think people of color and Spanish
color, thank you.
speaking, people of color and Spanish speaking providers.
Yep.
Native
Yes.
Spanish speaking providers. Services.
Yes. And that's what I was looking for, because Ashley's the one who had mentioned that, and her wording was similar to that. I've got too much paper here. All right, any other barriers? Okay, so Jennifer, you will be compiling and submitting for the county, and then Sue, you'll give your information to Katie to compile and submit.
Yes.
Just have that last question, number 9.
Oh, there's a number 9. Where's number 9? Hold on. Why am I missing number 9? Oh, here we go. Has your locality initiated actions over the past year to address the perceived services barriers? Yes or no? And if yes, please describe. I mean, I think we've, as far as like trauma informed and
we have the trauma informed network. Region
Yeah.
10 has been continuing to do the CRI trainings, providing them where we can in the community or where we're invited.
Is this how we address the need for greater collaboration and consensus? Because we're supposed to address, like, have we been addressing the barriers, not necessarily the gaps, but the barriers.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Thank you.
So we're addressing the barrier of need for greater collaboration and consensus by having networks that, like the Trauma Informed Care Network, there's the Charlottesville area network dedicated to youth development, Candid. That's another after school and summer school provider network. So those are 2 areas where we're trying to improve communication and collaboration. I mean, I think from what I hear about FACT and the way that those meetings are facilitated and engaged, I've only been to a handful, but I feel like that's a place where collaboration happens.
yeah, and I think the majority of collaboration for FACT happens before the meeting, but there's a lot that goes in it to address it. So I would say that, yeah.
I know that lack of funding was identified as a lower level barrier. I was thinking about the lack of funding for kids who are not involved in the systems yet of care. I think there is a lack of funding for that.
Yeah.
As far as our efforts towards that, I feel like the capstone program and the BJCCA funding streams for prevention is an effort to improve that access to funding for uninvolved youth.
Yes. And we need more funding though.
Yeah, totally.
Always more funding. Region 10 accesses mental health initiative funding for some of those gaps we run into.
And I think we try to apply for grants, at least in our department, apply for grants that are low level, don't have a lot of requirements or eligibility criteria so that we can offer it widely, but it's a lot of effort to find the grant and apply to the grant and get the grant and implement it.
And I do know Community Attention and CSU have the grant, the from any KC Foundation. That was kind of an emergency grant to help with, you know, general needs, basically housing, phone, internet service, things like that. Even it could pay for programs, for special programs or special classes. There's a wide variety of things, and we still have a pretty decent amount of money in that as well. Anything as far as transportation, provider availability, information and data.
I mean, I think as far as the effort to reduce the barrier to data is the stepping stones report. It needs to be updated to reflect this last year, but there's at least some sort of community wellness indicator that is going to be evaluated every year.
Okay.
What was the other? I think there's a more awareness and a call to action to have a more representative, multicultural, representative for our community. So I feel like there's some awareness building and some action calls to action for that.
Right. I was kind of thinking the same thing. And kind of some of the stuff we're trying to do with the capstone is to build that availability. But yeah, more of a call to action and not necessarily be right in the middle of it right now.
There's Human Services has a podcast, the Black Male Achievement Podcast, How You, and that specifically addresses mental health for Black males in this community. And so it's sort of raising the awareness of the needs for that, which can be reflected in some of the needs that we talked about, some of the stressors and things like that. So there are certain projects that are raising awareness.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? All right, if there's nothing else, it looks like we may be done with that. Jennifer, so you get everything you need?
Yes, thank you all.
Okay, yes, thank you, everybody. Do I need to save what I have on the screen and send it to you guys, or do you have it down?
So I've got the one for the county.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it down.
Okay. All right. Okay. So moving on with the agenda, any update on trauma-informed services from any of our agencies? I know
updates. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, I still need to reach out to Region 10 so we can get the CRI in here in the CSU. It's on my list.
Pass that on. Yeah, I would just say that we've been doing CRI trainings as much as we can across the way. So.
Anybody else? Mary, you said you didn't have any updates.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Misty, anything?
I mean, I guess I could share that I think Julia shared this in the last minutes, so this is maybe a little bit redundant, but we completed, this is last January. So a year and a half ago, we completed the VDSS Linking Systems of Care Trauma Informed Agency Assessment. Did any of you guys do that? It was like a tool that they put together and provided to agencies if they wanted to assess how trauma informed, like where their benchmarks are as far as like what things that they want to, like what have they done, where are their strengths, and then where do they need to improve. And so we've been action planning on some of our needs improvement areas. We just collected all the things that we have done in this last year. And then getting ready to redo the assessment to see if our evaluation changes. We give it to all staff. We'll do that in September. And so it'll be neat to see like if we move the needle to being more trauma informed over those things. But I really enjoyed the tool. It's very in depth. But if you had a team in your agencies that wanted to do it, I'm sure it's on the VDSS website, but I also have it if you want to take a look at it.
Okay. Any other updates? What about any other or new business? Anything to add? Okay. So messaging out or responses for CPMT, I will present the newly revised provider satisfaction survey. Jennifer, you said something about having to present the gaps survey to CPMT. Is that something I do or you guys do, or how does that work?
It can, well, it'll just go to them before the meeting to look at for
Okay.
their feedback, but it would come up during the program agenda item.
Okay, okay. So that clears that up for me. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then we can go ahead and adjourn. It's been a longer meeting than usual, but thanks for all of your input.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Bye,
Bye, y'all.
everybody.
Good afternoon. Take care.
Bye.